back. Hope you're having a good day. The star of today's video is this Gumbo LImbo tree. It is a Florida native. In the nursery's defense, when I went to go pick it up, I had actually just read an article about, doing work with native trees, and I was inspired to go pick up a Gumbo LImbo. And when I picked it up, they said, well, this is not a very good tree for beginners or anything. And I was just like, I wanted the native to give it a shot or whatever. It's a hell of a tree. I don't know, if it ever was really a good beginner's bonsai tree or whatever, but it really can take some abuse. The cuttings take nearly 100%. I'll show you some earlier pictures of when I first got it. I really haven't taken many pictures in between. I've actually had it sitting out in the yard with the old escape route on there and everything, so it's hard to get good pictures or a video or anything like that, obviously, outside. But I couldn't let that go on forever here, so I figured eventually I gotta get it and do something with it. A couple weeks ago, I defoliated it, and it's starting to just get some buds coming out there. So now's the time. Although I think for us down here in the tropics and this guy, I could pretty much just do this anytime. There's supposedly some of the first settlers in Florida had actually taken some of the Gumbo LImbo trees and used them as fence posts. And next thing you know, the farmers knew the fence posts were all growing trees. That's how easily they take for cuttings, even if you're sitting there putting barbed wire or things like that in there or whatever. They still just root in. I'll also include a couple of trees that I've taken from this one that I now have in the yard. I mean, one of them is at least a good 10 feet tall. So that's how quick they grow, how hard they are to keep wired up. I was able to get, this movement here. When I got it, I'm guessing it was right about where my hand is here tall. It's hard to tell from those old pictures just because of how much fatter it's gotten along the way too, but it was somewhere right around in here. It's got some basic, some basic movement there. It's kind of subtle, but at least it was able to maintain the structure and hold itself up. I've been doing this to the upper ones. And then I've been just kind of watching them. I've been watching them all around the neighborhood. They're all around the neighborhood now. And then I can also tell just by the way I have mine growing is. I'm going to take this guy off. Take this guy off. If I wanted to, I could just put those right in the dirt outside, no rooting hormone, no nothing. They'd grow, no doubt about it, especially if I watered it. I don't even think it would take water. I think it'd just grow either way. But I'm going to make this, what's left, it actually has some taper, and that was why I was leaving those other branches on there. I didn't really plan it out to be exactly like this, but that's kind of what it is now. And then, like I said, as I kind of watch the other trees in the neighborhood, if you do keep them, if you prune them a couple times a year, they keep a nice little canopy on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to just get it to a little canopy here and be able to follow that trunk line up. It's going to be hard to show you guys everything I do, but I'm going to work it, and I'm going to try to just see what it looks like. I mean, if I had like a planing saw, I think you could take this stump and just cut it like that, and it would root back in there as long as you could get it to set in there without falling over. So what I'm going to do is maybe either put it right back into this one or something a little bit bigger. But I think I'm going to go ahead. I've had this buried up to here because once it does, these leaves are pretty big and it does form quite a canopy. And so it does start blowing around a lot or whatever. And now without all that other foliage on there, it shouldn't be so bad at first. And then it'll just kind of root itself in again. And every couple of years I'll have to do this. I mean, I've had it around 3 years. And it has not had, I actually had it sitting on my lanai for a little while. It was healthy, but I don't think it was getting enough sun. But that was enabling me to kind of get some of this initial movement in it and everything. And then eventually I just took it out and I buried it up to there. I had it sitting out there, and every time a storm would come through, I'd come home and it'd be laying down. So I wound up just burying it to hold it in there. And then one day I noticed it rooted itself, and I've just let it go ever since. Now let's see. This one root, super thick. That's what she said. Got some, hate to use my new pruners with too much root work, but these are dull as can be. going to kind of get off the bulk with the dull ones here first. I'll probably have to use the sharper ones. And that one worked there. To get my new big pruners. Pretty sure I'm gonna wind up having to break this pot. Not that big of a deal, but I did want to use it again, at least for this. Couple of these trees, this one and the bigger olive, I thought about just getting it in a little more of a, like just a big decorative pot for like a yard tree, and then just, you know, keeping it pruned up really nice and everything, but not really wiring it or anything like that. When you think about how big the cuttings from this tree have gotten, I mean, I pruned the one picture of the tree that kind of looks like I'm using it for a little bit of a barrier between the pool, me and the pool next door, which I am. I pruned that. I chopped it way back, like probably 3-4 feet off it, 4 or 5 times at least, and it's still that big. All right, just to save batteries and to keep boring you guys to death, I ended up going underneath there with a knife and cutting. I had to cut each one of the drain holes a little bit bigger where the tree's gone through. But we're finding out what's in here. Hey, let's see if I can show you guys what I'm seeing here. All right, there's a little bit of a better look at it. When I picked it up, you know, it had that interesting twist there in the bottom. So far, I haven't really been able to, you know, I don't see any roots that are reaching sideways that are going to give me too much of a better nib area. I'll probably just leave it just like it is, let it fatten itself up like it is. You can see there the bark is peeling. When it initially peels, it looks red underneath. They actually call this the tourist tree because it looks like it got sunburned just like a tourist or whatever, where they come up with some of these silly little nicknames and everything. But basically, I'll turn it so that the taproot isn't at the same. We'll probably prune that little guy out there. Turn it just so that taproot isn't in the same hole again. I'll probably just pot it up just like it was and bury it out there in the yard just like it was. Try to get that canopy going, like I said, for a couple years. See, see what kind of progress I can make with that, what that might look like, and then think about maybe trying to find. I mean, like this pot that I used turned upside down for a training pot might be a good one to try to get in as a final one day. But right now, I just want to see what kind of canopy I can get without really worrying about keeping an eye on a ceramic pot with it blowing over and things like that and everything. This guy I can just bury again and it should be fine. All right, what I'm going to do, since I had to rip that out, I'm going to take some of the matted up roots and just put it right at the bottom just to keep all of my good substrate from going right out of the bottom. I don't really want that happening. All right, and there we go. At the very least, it'll be a cool little point of interest in my yard.